Welcome to the season premiere or series premiere of Five Things. You've seen some teasers for this early on our show when we converted from Women Are Horror to Nerd Box. We've talked about it on the Popcorn Confessional. Now you get to experience what Five Things is. And I am joined with my co-host from After Hours Drop Off, and that is Mr. Charlie Johnston.
Yay!
So today's topic, we are going to talk about the 5 independent films from the 90s that you should be checking out. And before we do that, we're going to just go into a little bit of a history of the indie films and how they came about.
I am inevitable.
In 1908, the Edison Trust was formed, aka the Motion Picture Patents Company, which was made up of a select number of studios. Yes, if you're thinking that Edison, it is Thomas Edison, and he was the primary owner of those patents. The trust self-served their profits. They monopolized the film industry and not only had turned away many filmmakers, but they filed injunctions and lawsuits against filmmakers working outside of the trust. Now, indie filmmakers resorted to making their own cameras as a way to get around it. And it took the government getting involved, first canceling the patents on raw film in 1912, and then all of Edison's trust patents. The studio system was then formed by the 1930s, and it broke up the film industry into 3 categories: the Big Five, the Little Three, and Poverty Row. Filmmakers would again feel the pains of big business as that progressed, and United Artists were formed as the first true indie film studio during the silent era of the 40s. But that would soon dissolve due to the changing industry and introduction of sound. In 1941, the Society of Independent Motion Picture Producers was formed, with one of the founding members being Walt Disney. By the end of the 40s, many indie films were garnering critical praise, and in 1953, the first indie picture was nominated for Best Picture, which was Little Fugitive. In 78, we saw the Utah U.S. Film Festival launch, and we would come to know this under its new name in 1991, which is the Sundance Film Festival. Now, indie films boomed in the 90s, launching countless careers, saving several too, and the decade began with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being the highest grossing indie film in 1990, and it ended with the Blair Witch Project being the highest grossing indie film of all time up until that point. The latter still ranked at number 7 all time in indie films. We have on 5 Things a special guest, so you don't just get to hear me and Charlie talk about the 5 things that we recommend. With us today is the director of the movie Driven, which you can currently find on Amazon Prime. Welcome, Glenn, to our show. How's it going?
Going good. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you joining us. And so what you got going on? You got any projects coming up or?
So you can see Driven for free on IMDb TV, which is through Amazon and Tubi. And then our new movie, Killer Concept, comes out May 21st. Or did come out on May 21st, depending on when you watch this. If you like thriller horror comedies, that's sort of my jam right now.
What's Killer Concept about?
It's about these 3 filmmakers in a small town who are writing a horror story, a screenplay based on real murders in their town. But what 2 of them don't know is that the third one is actually the killer. So it deals with those relationships and everything that comes about from that.
Oh, nice. Very interesting. Okay, so let's jump into our list. And how this works, guys, is we're going to go through everybody's number 5s. We're going to talk about their selections, and then we're going to talk about their number 4s. We'll go to 3, 2, and 1. And since we have a guest on our show, Glenn, you get to reveal your number 5 first.
My pick for 5 was a movie called Following by Christopher Nolan. If you haven't seen it, if you're a fan of Nolan films, it's very, very early. Clearly didn't have hardly any money at all. But he was playing around with jumping around time. You know how he likes to do if you watch any Nolan films. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's a sort of typical kind of like crime thriller, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what are you seeing, what are you not seeing kind of thing. Obviously on a smaller scale than the rest of his films. You follow this one character around as he gets into it with some dangerous dudes, if I remember correctly. But it has been a while since I've seen it. But it's black and white, so there's that too. If you like,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have not seen that one. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Charlie, have you seen that one?
No. I thought Christopher Nolan only was known for 4 movies. So, just I'm only kidding. I figured he did more than that. No, they just gave him the keys to the castle. Like, no, you get to handle Batman. That's it. And he did nothing else. No, I never.
He did it before Memento. I think was the
did
next
movie. Oh, that's what I always know for Nolan for being his first like breakout or whatever. I just,
Yeah. This one is like his no money, weekend movie kind of thing.
It's hard to imagine him with absolutely no budget. Dazed and Confused.
Oh, good one.
All right. It gave us so many stars, and that soundtrack was the shit.
Yes.
So
Yes,
I'm just saying it. Like from Matthew McConaughey, fucking Ben Affleck's in it. Like, I mean, and like a husky Ben Affleck, and we don't get too much of that these days. Let's be honest. He's pretty gaunt looking in a lot of. But yeah, and got my wiener touched the first time I ever saw it. Some chick named Candy lived across the street. She wasn't a stripper that I know of.
Well, to add to it, yeah, so it's McConaughey's first film. It's Renee Zellweger's first film.
Yep.
Ben Affleck's second film. There's a decent amount of people that were just starting out when they did this film here. Soundtrack, yes, amazing. I don't know what I listened to or watched more was the soundtrack of the movie.
Yeah, I can identify with the story too, like just like all the coolness of the movie aside, and all the memorable parts and all that. But I always like the dynamic of and I'm not gonna remember their names, but the main character that was the football player, and at the end the coach tries to give him shit, and he's just like, I'm just trying to go see Aerosmith. And at the same time, towards the end of the movie, the younger brother who's about to kind of get into the high school game or whatever, he's just like, he just had his first crazy night, lays down, puts the headphones on. Like, there's sort of like a synchronicity is the right word I think I'm looking for that I always dig about that. Like, I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. And the characters in the movie are just awesome.
Ooh, that's a strong number 5 to follow up on. My number 5, it is New Jack City with Wesley Snipes in that movie. Chris Rock was in that movie as well. Now, when I was a kid, I actually had to sneak that VHS into my room, played sick, and watched the movie when nobody was at the house because that's how much I wanted to see the movie. And I don't think Chris Rock kind of gets credit for how good he can act, but in that movie he played Pookie. And that was my scared straight because, for you guys, spoiler, Pookie was a drug addict. He became clean and then he got hooked again. And seeing what he went through, I was like, nope, not worth it. Never going to do any of that stuff.
I bet he'd feel really good knowing that he kept you on the straight and narrow, man.
He did.
I always wanted to rent that one, and it was that one, and then not that it's a 90's movie, it might be an independent though, was I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. I always felt like when I went into Blockbuster in Mount Pocono, you've heard of that place, right, Dave? There it is. I always felt like whenever I went in there, like those two movies were always within like a couple feet of each other, and I was like, nah. Like, I'm not cool enough, I'm not old enough or whatever.
Okay, number 4, I have El Mariachi by Robert Rodriguez.
Wow.
Keep waiting for like a noise in case I say one is out of the decade or not really independent. That one's pretty independent, I would think. And a lot of these for me are like, they were really influential to me as a filmmaker as much as anything else. And that one, I learned so much about the backstory, and I read his book, which you guys may be familiar with, but basically, what was it called? Rebel Without a Crew. Like making stuff with no money, you know? So,
Yeah.
like, that was, I mean, he did, it's the craziest stuff, you know? Like, there's the old tales of him, volunteering, you know, for the clinical science experiments where he had to make the money to make the movie and all the stuff he went through. And then obviously they ended up with a trilogy of sorts from that series with Desperado, and then what was the third one? Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Clearly, he had a lot more money at that point than with the first one. But
he tricked me into collecting all of his DVDs, not because the movies are good, but if you ever got the Criterion collections of his movies, they always had a cooking show on them. That's
right, yeah.
And I love to cook, but I probably bought 3 or 4 of his movies just for that reason alone. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I don't even know if I got to get into why this movie's the shit. I mean, really.
My friend was just saying the other day about being indie, and I was like, I don't even know. I was like, what?
Dave, on one of our other episodes, we were talking about some stuff, getting ready for the episode, and he mentioned that Turtles was an indie film, and I was like, really?
Yeah.
I guess it has to be on my list then, because I'm a huge Turtles fan.
I wonder what their budget was for that.
It could have been much. Well, I mean, I guess it had to have been something, because not for anything, the costumes were elaborate.
Yeah.
You have to give them that much. Like those turtle costumes, if nothing else, and Splinter. Actually, Splinter probably more than the Turtles, really. I don't know, man. It all went into that. You know, it all went into that.
Think how durable the turtle costumes had to be. Just durable.
That's what I was thinking, because they're, and in most cases on any given movie set. I mean, now it's like just abused, but back in the day, it was always like you usually had 4 suits. If there was a costume, like lack of a better example, like Batman suits, like there was probably going to be 4, maybe 5 Batman suits. One of them was for walking around, one of them was backup, and the other 3 were just going to get the shit kicked out of them. Maybe you had one left over after those, the first 2 maybe got beat, but I'm sure the same had to be for the Turtles. Either that, or like you said, like they were just really well made.
And, the remakes, they didn't hold up to that film. The CGI was a step down from those costumes.
2 was not that bad.
It was okay.
2 was not that bad. The first one is magic. That's a different. You can't just take your fucking pick, Dave. Like, I'm just tired of this shit. Jesus Christ, defend my goddamn Turtles.
My number 4, though, has been mentioned, and that's Dazed and Confused. I have to agree. Great film. Love that movie. I also kind of feel a little bit associated with one of the characters, and that was the football player, because I was playing football at the time, and I moved up here, and I was like, I don't really want to play football anymore, because it's like Varsity Blues. People going around, slapping each other on their asses. They have the rolled up cuffed pants and stuff like that. It's like, that's not the football I played in New York. In New York, when we played football, we got into fights with ourselves. Up here, it was too country for me. So I was going through that transition too, where I had my coach that was kind of on my ass all the time. It's like, forget it. I'm done. I just want to enjoy being the age that I was.
Plus, you had to go to, Aerosmith. That's the real reason. You had to go see Aerosmith, man. All right, folks, you've seen the journey thus far. We are halfway through this amazing list of independent films. But what I'm going to need you to do right now, a little favor for me. You're going to hit the bell. You're going to hit the subscribe. You're going to hit that there thumbs up. And you're going to leave some comments. Leave those comments. Let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what you think that we need to do better. Give us some ideas for other lists. Because frankly, I'm exhausted from this. The most important thing you can do is be kind to each other. Sure, there's going to be a little bit of drama. It is the comment section. But just remember those things. thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and like. Glenn, you're number 3.
Number 3. Let's see if we can get some controversy in here. I don't know. Reservoir Dogs.
That's my number 3 also.
Oh, hey. Okay, less controversy than I was expecting. I wonder what the budget was on that sucker.
I used to know it. I used to know it.
Cartel. How you say Cartel? I mean, I always use that. Keitel,
yeah.
Obviously, he was in it. I guess he was their sort of big get.
He was. He. If I remember correctly, he did not financially back it so much as he just had a lot of connections and got the assistance that it needed.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. That maybe, I don't know, could be my favorite Tarantino movie still.
As far as directors go, I mean, you don't really get a lot that like come in hot like that either. I mean, like there's a ton of great directors, and we did a whole episode on Tarantino, so I'm sure, the viewers can imagine what we really feel about the guy. But, at the end of the day, I mean, that's, to say that's your first film, I mean, it was destined for greatness.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say, though, my number 3 is probably more influential both of your number 3s.
Okay.
And it was filmed for just around $60,000, cost under $1 million to market and produce. The Blair Witch Project. You have to think about how this movie changed the landscape and a lot of things. It went viral without there ever being going viral back then. It had MTV creating these fake documentaries that market that these kids were really dead. It was really one of the first found footage films out there. And it wasn't till the second time I saw it, which was 2 days later after the first time that I saw it, and I actually stayed for the credits, where I actually learned that it was fake. But that first time I saw it, when I left the theaters, people were coming out and they were scared.
I mean, it did what it did, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, like, I know my number 2 is going to have a super low fucking budget. And didn't get the extra, like, fake newscast bullshit like Blair Witch did. But just saying, I mean, it's a good pick. It's a solid pick.
I guess we'll have to find out.
Oh, you're going to find out, buddy.
Okay, number 2. I have a film called Barton Fink. The Cohen brothers.
I haven't seen it.
Oh man, you got to check it out. It's very interesting. I mean, they have a lot of kind of like off the wall movies, which I typically always enjoy a lot. This one's about a writer in LA, and it captures this crazy vibe. It's got John Turturro, if I'm saying that right, and then John Goodman is in it, and a lot of other like awesome actors popping in there that they use a lot. But it has such a vibe and a unique mood to it. It's got, it's kind of like this weird drama thriller. It's really slow pace, but like really detailed and effective. Totally worth checking out. And it's one like, I may have only seen it once or twice back when I first watched it, but it's always when I come back to like, man, I need to watch that again. I gotta watch that again. And then I continue to forget to do that. Which is totally on me. But, worth checking out if you guys haven't seen it.
You had me at Turturro and Goodman. I haven't seen it, but I definitely have to now.
Yeah, and they bring it to me.
My number 2, I'm going to preface by saying number 2 should be number 1. You'll understand.
Okay.
Number 2 is Clerks.
Oh, yes.
Because Clerk, now, in my opinion, if Glenn didn't steal my thunder, thanks a lot, guest. Reservoir Dogs and Clerks, they put indie film on the map. Just my personal opinion. I mean, they were around before, and maybe there's better, worse, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think the actual phrase independent film gained like a lot of notoriety and like pop culture status because of Tarantino and Kevin Smith. I could be dead wrong. Maybe I'm alone in that. But Clerks is still a good movie. I could throw that on. Doesn't matter what my mood, and it will freaking make me laugh. You know what I mean? And again, the backstory is almost as interesting, probably more interesting, really, than the movie itself when you really get down to it. Like, he worked at the Quick Stop. They blacked out all the windows. They only shot at night. He still worked during the day.
Yeah.
The milkmaid was his mom. Like, just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of tidbit of information for you. I don't know if I'm the only Kevin Smith-aholic here, but so Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, the comic book store that they have out in Red Bank.
Yep, been there.
It closed. They decided to move it up the street, and I guess they expanded it and made it whatever. You know who they hired to do the renovations?
No.
The Star Wars construction guy from Clerks.
Oh, wow.
When they're talking about the Death Star and how it did it. And that guy was the one, he's the guy that Kevin Smith hired to redo the vet renovations for the new Jay and Silent Bob Secret Stash. I was like, this guy just can't let go of Red Bank. It's awesome. You know? But,
we went down to the Secret Stash, and it was at the time when they still had the sign, yes, we're open today. So I had my daughters pose in Jay and Silent Bob's positions right in front of that sign.
You got to do the Jay and Silent Bob pose.
Oh, yeah.
Or someone has to do it within your group. Like, it's just, it's a rule. It's practically a law. I'm pretty sure you get a fine if you don't do it when you visit Red Bank.
I don't know if you guys thought of this as an independent film. It came out a week after The Sixth Sense and was crushed by The Sixth Sense, but it is Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon. Yes.
I've heard
That's
of that
an
movie.
indie film?
Yeah, it is. I couldn't believe it either. But an indie film, yeah, Stir of Echoes. I think that movie holds up a lot better than The Sixth Sense. The kid is actually a lot more enjoyable to watch than the kid from The Sixth Sense. But it's Kevin Bacon, and he just killed it in that role. That movie's just great, and I watch it every fall, at least once every fall. It's definitely being watched.
Yeah, no, I would agree that that's a really solid movie. Like, it's, I remember it being especially, I don't know if unsettling is the right word, in a good way. You'd like affected. I mean, like, they definitely had their creep factor going on with what they were doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. You know, with the being hypnotized, yeah. I thought the ghost, even to this day, the ghost, the way they portrayed the girl, holds up. Just a little side note, I have a false wall in my basement too. And yeah, I'm not taking it down. I don't want to know what's behind that wall after seeing that movie.
There's a body. There's a body.
Why else would you have it? There wasn't a body behind it. There's the only reason.
John Wayne Gacy vacationed in Dave's house. There's just going to be like 13 bodies all.
Oh my God.
I have, for number one, the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to say anything earlier because we were a few away. But yeah, I love the Blair Witch Project. I actually really like found footage movies, and I found a group on Facebook recently, and I've been watching a lot. And they can be just, horrible, like just horrible. But there's still something about. That's how I started out making movies, because I had no money at all. Like, so I got like $100 camera. And then I would just film. Everything was found footage in the beginning, because I was like, well, I know I don't have the equipment to hold up with anybody, So that was my method for a while. But anyway, yeah, like all the stuff you said, everybody knows the financial success, yada, yada. I actually did, with Driven, we did a film festival in LA, and they had a lot of really cool panels. And Mark Ordesky was there, who was a producer of Lord of the Rings and a lot of other stuff. And he was talking. And I think that was like his biggest regret, was that they did not seal the deal and buy that movie at whatever, festival it was at. Whoever got it bought it, and then they did the big marketing deal, with all the fake articles and the website and all that stuff. Which I can understand, because it was massive, profit,
It made just under $250 million back then.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
Totally understand why they tried. I mean, it was a trash heap of a movie, but why they went for the sequel. You know what, though? Dude? Here's the thing. It might as well be the godfather of found footage movies that would be the guinea pig for that. I mean, because they treated it like any other movie. Like, oh, we made like blah, blah percentage of profit because we gotta do a sequel.
Yeah.
And it's like they could have never touched that property again ever. Like, not even a remake. You just don't do it. Just leave it. It's a piece of, if nothing else, it's a piece of art.
Now, that movie like set me on a found footage path for a long time, and I mean, I watched it not too long ago, and like I thought it still held up really well.
Yeah,
and like I have
definitely.
friends who, you know, like I have a good friend who I think is very smart, and she doesn't care for it at all, but she's wrong, you know, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite the achievement.
Okay, now there's some stipulations here. My number one was released in 1975. Although, you guys recall, the DVD gained popularity in the late 90s. And this particular film had a re-release, an anniversary collection in the 90s. And it is, as I have said, what I consider to be one of the first crowd-funded, at least famous crowd-funded movies, and it is technically an independent film. It is. There's a technical. It is. Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I thought you were about to say Halloween for some reason.
Nah, I'm not the horror guy. The Dave would do that.
Yeah.
But I understand if I can't do that one, that's fair. I understand. I think you're wrong, but okay. So my number one would have been Clerks then. My number two was going to be a movie that nobody but me apparently has ever fucking seen. Kids in the Hall, Brain Candy.
I remember that. I didn't see it though.
Right. Okay, so that movie, it's a guilty pleasure at this point because it's out of its mind. It's insane. It's a crazy movie. It's the Kids in the Hall. The part of it that makes it kind of a guilty pleasure and why it belongs on this list, aside from the fact that it is an indie film, is that might arguably be the first indie film I ever watched without knowing it, because for a period of time on Cinemax when I was a kid, they played it constantly. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they did, but you know,
that was your.
What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was going to be your number two. Would have been your number two. Kids in the Hall.
That technically would have been my number two. Clerks would have been my number one, but I wanted to squeeze in Monty Python because I'm going to admit that I forgot until you said it that this was a 90s only list. So the list I had at the beginning of this is not the list I'm looking at right now. I'm just going to lay it out for you, to be honest with you. But I'm a professional, so I cut this shit together quick. But just so you have the information, the reason why it's maybe the OG independent film is that it was apparently funded by the likes of Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Genesis. It only cost $400,000 to make, which by today's standards is so cheap, but 1975 money, $400,000 is a lot of friggin' money.
Yeah.
Especially for indie film, and it was put out under Monty Python Films, so independent film.
I'm kind of mind blown here that both of you didn't say this film on your list anywhere. That my number one, hands down movie, blockbuster recommendation that always got a positive review is Boondock Saints.
Is that 90s?
That's 90s, yes.
You know, I skipped that shit just because I assumed it was like 01 or 02. I'm like, there's no way that was 90s. Motherfucker!
Oh, 99. It's 99.
Yeah.
It would have been on the list.
Norman Reedus, Sean Patrick Flannery, and Willem Dafoe just being amazing in that role. But like I said, back in the day, Blockbuster, there was two independent films that three, that I can always go to. This one being in the 90s, Behind the Mask and Pool Hall Junkies from the 2000s. I can recommend those to anybody because they typically didn't see it. And I think I've only ever had one person ever come back and said that they didn't like the Boondock Saints. Just one.
Ooh. Anyone know? Should I smack him?
No.
I bet you they like the second one better.
So yeah, amazing movie about two brothers taking matters into their own hands and becoming the Saints. Love that movie. Another one that's on watch every single year, at least once. Definitely St. Patty's Day, and hoping that a part 3 comes out. Yeah, that's my number one.
It's a good number one. I'm really jealous. I'm really, really jealous. I'm a bitch. Fuck. Well, I want you guys to know Blair Witch was in my honorable mentions, just so you know. So I'm still part of the cool kids.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our show. So, Glenn, I'd like to thank you very much for being our first guest on our series premiere of 5 Things. Again, just plug everything for your movie that just came out.
Yeah, so check out Killer Concept. You want to talk about low budgets? That's a $900 quarantine movie right there. So we check it out. It's on Amazon, and it will soon after that be on most everything else. But
Sweet.
Yeah, that and Driven. And if you like ghost hunting comedies, we have one called Stag Wrestle Paranormal on Amazon as well.
That is funny. I watched a few of those episodes. Very funny.
Thank you. Good deal. Thanks for having me. That's an honor. When you guys are blowing up, I'll tag you and try to sponge off your success as much as possible.
Oh, we'll let you. Don't worry. Don't worry. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. This was our top 5. Maybe it was 15. I don't know. I lost count. Can't really count that well. I tried to sneak in a movie from 1975. Did they allow it? I don't know. Are you going to allow it? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. But make sure, more importantly than anything else, click the subscribe, click the like, click the bell icon. YouTube has been so generous to give you this bell icon. I'm lazy as shit. And I make sure that I click the bell icon on every single channel that I want to see every episode of. This is for you. This is so you don't have to think about it. So make sure you do that. Support us, and we will keep churning out these lists and do the best we possibly can for you. Give us some ideas in the comments. Give us some critiques. We appreciate everything you give us. Take it away, Dave.
If you think Charlie's 1975 movie is controversial, tune in soon to see what franchises make it on the list for ones that you should avoid. There's some heated words in that one. Until the next one, catch you later, guys.
Thank you.